Hi, I'm Jason Debly. Tonight's whiskey review is Canadian whiskey. Canadian whiskey doesn't always have the most solid of reputations because traditionally Canadian whiskey was used for blending, mixing in mixed drinks in hot weather. Seagrams, maybe Crown Royal by itself sometimes, but often it was mixed. And so Canadian whiskey has undergone a revolution in the last 15 years, I would say, where the quality has gone way up. And it's not always obvious, but one particular Canadian distillery that really impresses me is Macaloney's. I've reviewed them before, and I got another bottle at the liquor store. This is Macaloney Caledonian Invermallie Island Single Malt. So it's a Canadian whiskey, but it's a single malt using Canadian barley. The whiskey master is Graham McDowell. I had a note here. Graham Macaloney, named after the distillery. And he used to work in Scotland, and then he moved to Canada and eventually, with investors, established this distillery. And what he's been kicking out in the last few years is simply amazing. In a blind test, this stuff, I would think, is Scotch whiskey. I could not discern that. Like when you drink in a blind tasting, say Irish and Scotch whiskey, you can pick out the Irish. Or if it's American whiskey like bourbon, they're very distinct. But this Canadian distillery, using Canadian barley, but excellent wood management, that's part of the secret, I think, to this distillery, and the knowledge of this Graham Macaloney, because he knows how to get high quality without being hot in flavor or unbalanced. Now, this is a more high-end offering. This has been discontinued. It's not available anymore. It was just kind of a limited edition. I got it at my liquor store for about $120, and it's 46% ABV, which is impressive. I got to put my glasses on to read something. The other thing is these are like a limited run. This was 92nd bottle out of 340, bottled in 2022, but I only paid $119 Canadian, which is about 75 American. I'm joking, but it sure feels like that for Canadians when we go down south. Okay, so good alcohol by volume. I think, like I told you, 46%. Non-chill filtered, and no artificial color, which explains complexity. And this dram has some complexity. So, what else can I tell you? This line of Invermallie, they now call it Saint Mally, they experiment with different wood, and the particular bottle I have is Moscatel Barriques, which I think Moscatel is Portuguese and Spanish, sweet white wine, and it was aged in some casks, and then they get the casks, and then they put their spirit in it, and it produces this. There's no age statement on here, but we'll get to that. Okay. So you know I like this. Can't even give you any suspense. On the nose, it's buttery, dandelions, sweet, nothing offensive. There's no sherry note, and the wood management appears to be, like I said, Spanish or Portuguese sweet white wine casks. But if I didn't know better, this would be like ex-bourbon casks for a point of reference. Very nice nose. Not hot, not offensive. So on the palate, there's an initial entry of it's smooth and buttery, but on the first sip, it quickly becomes a bit powerful, not overwhelming, but because of the 46% alcohol by volume, it packs a punch. So then your palate really is challenged a little bit. And what flavors am I picking up? You know, it's like Moroccan tangerines, a little bit of salt in there and a little bit of black pepper in the background, or maybe sea salt, more subtle. Fine oak. There's some complexity here. Really impressive. On the finish, it's dessert-like lemon meringue pie. It's a very good dram. I haven't really experimented with water. I have a glass and I have a spoon. It has very little water. Just see what happens. The water's going to open it up, make it more lemony, more of a cake bread note. I think I like it neat. So, they have a website. I'm going to put my glasses back on because I can't see it without them. And the website, Caledonian.com. I've gone there a couple times and I've gotten stuff shipped to my house. I'm in Canada. I don't know if they ship to the US. You'll have to explore that on your own. I suspect they do, unless it's an American state that doesn't allow for shipping of alcohol. But yeah, so Canadian whiskey can be so good, it can be easily confused with or mistaken for good quality Speyside whiskey. To compare to a Speyside, I think of like Glenkinchie or Glenkinchie Distiller's Edition. That's what this is really in line with, like Glenkinchie. There's no sherry note, nor should there be, because there's no sherry casks involved in the production of this. Really, that's all I got to say for tonight. Highly recommended. Check out Macaloney's Caledonian Distillery. Really good. They're in Victoria, British Columbia. And yeah, very impressive. Kind of a couple hours north of Seattle.